Don't go through life, grow through life. Hello, everyone. So, today I'm doing a channel message on the quote, don't just go through life, grow through life. Okay? So, let's talk about the difference between going through life and growing through life. People are unable to grow through life because their egos don't want them to grow. Okay? Our egos live on fear. Our egos thrive on, what the heck was that? Our egos thrive on fear. Growth is fear inducing. Why? Because it's the unknown. Um, it's unknown because the best growth you can do is spiritual, emotional, and mental. The ego is uncomfortable with that kind of growth because it's not tangible. Like, you can't see that growth. You can't, I mean, I guess you can see it, but you can't like I can see this bottle. You can't see it. You can't touch it. You can't smell it. And so the ego's like, I don't know what that is. I can't see it. It's scary. I don't want to do it. Let's not grow. Let's just stay where we're at. Okay? The ego is comfortable with material things because it's tangible. We can see these things come and go and change, right? So the ego sees spiritual, emotional, and mental growth as a threat because those things are not tangible and the clear path ahead is not seen. So in essence, it's like driving down a dark road and not being able to see past your headlights. However, most of us have faith that the road is there. Okay, the road could end abruptly and we wouldn't know, but we have faith the road is there. However, our ego doesn't have faith that that road of growth is there. When we are in our unconscious state is when we live in our egos. When we live in our egos, we either live in the past or we live in the future. We don't live in the present. Okay? Our egos, because our egos run on fear, fear is the root of negative emotion. So we're living in a constant state of negativity, anger, sadness, jealousy, all of this stuff, okay? Because we allow our ego to take over. Our ego is there to protect us, right? From things that may hurt us. But if we allow our ego to have too much power, it will cause us to live in this cage of fear so that growth is not possible. When we are in our unconscious state, we allow our egos to control our lives, not knowing that we are living from fear. So yeah, I am reading. I wrote what I'm going to say. And the reason why I have to write things down is because I was really sick for about 3 years and it actually affected my brain, which caused me to have, causes me to forget things. So I have to write them down. So, and fear is the foundation of negative thinking. To our ego, negative is easier than positive thinking because our ego feels that if we think positively, we're just setting ourselves up for failure. It's easier to expect the worst because we won't be let down. It's like, well, I expected it. However, if we expect the best and the best doesn't happen, we let ourselves down. Okay? We become attached to material things like money, cars, clothing, even our physical appearance. Okay? Because we can see them, we can touch them, etc. And it gives us a sense of control over the outcome. Okay? Because we can see the change, we can see the loss. It's something our ego feels, okay, we have control over this. Because we live from fear, we live we live for outward appearances for validation. And I talk about this often, especially people who flex online, who show their bodies, they're looking for outward validation. And it's a sense of validate me because I can't validate myself. Love me because I can't love myself. Okay? We are unable to validate and love ourselves because our egos tell us we are not good enough. Have you ever heard the saying, we are our own worst enemy? We are our toughest critics. That is our ego working against us. Okay? We see this constantly on social media, right? Validate me, love me, likes, give me follows, give me this, give me that, to make me feel good about myself. Okay? It's an epidemic of fear-based living. When we go to a new job, when we go become content creators, when we even in school, we go to a new school, we want to be liked. You know, we follow what other people are doing so that we can be liked. Okay? How do we grow through life? So now we're going to talk about the two parts that kind of together make it possible for us to grow through life. So I was talking about healing or shadow work. Okay? I know people who don't know what shadow work is. It sounds scary, doesn't it? Shadow work. It sounds almost like black magic or something dark. It's not. Okay? The reason it's called shadow work is because it's us healing our shadows, our traumas, the negative sides of ourselves. So how do we do shadow work? Well, the first step is we think about, and even the best thing to do, like what I did, is I took a piece of paper and pen. I wrote down every single traumatic event I've ever had in my life. Any event that still affects me to today. Basically, first step, what was the event that traumatized you? This is something you want to do alone. You don't want to have any input from friends, family, because this is about you. What do you find traumatizing? Anything that still haunts you today, anything that still causes you to think back and go, man, I'm this way because that happened to me. Okay? And anything that causes you to self-victimize and say, because that happened to me, that's why I am the way I am today. That's why I deserve what I deserve today. Because that happened to me. Okay? I'm afraid to get into a relationship because that happened to me. I'm afraid of this type of person because that happened to me. Okay? So once we have all of those written down, we move into step 2, which is, why did it traumatize you? And a lot of people might say, well, duh, because it hurt me. Okay, good. But when you think about this event, what emotions does it bring up? Fear, anger, sadness? Write them down. Okay? So and I suggest, when you have your list, don't just focus on the first one and then do all the steps. And then once you complete that, then move on to the next one. Otherwise, you're going to confuse yourself. So the third step is a really tough step for a lot of people, and it's taking accountability. Think about this traumatic situation. Say, was I accountable in any way for this happening? And you can determine that by saying, if I did this, would it have changed the outcome to a better option? Or if I didn't do this, would this have changed? So I have a example. When I was at 8 months pregnant with my oldest, her father struck me across the face. Okay? I left him the next day, but he struck me while I was pregnant. And so that is a situation I had to work through. And I asked myself, did I have accountability? And I thought back and I said, well, yes, I did. Because in his shoulder, I went like this in his shoulder. And that's why he hit me. Not to say that that's what made it okay. And not to say I deserved what he did. No, but I have to say to myself, if I didn't do that to him, would he have done what he did? And I thought to myself, I said, well, no. You know, and this is really the hardest part, because this is a traumatic event for you. This caused you lifelong trauma. And to say, well, I had some accountability, a lot of people say, well, you know, that, so you're saying that I deserved it. No, of course not. Nobody ever, for any reason, deserves to be struck by anyone else. No one deserves to have hands put on them in anger for any reason. But once you're able to say, well, I did have some accountability, it doesn't minimize the trauma at all. Not at all. But it causes some growth within you, because you're able to take accountability, take responsibility, and say, you know what? I messed up. I know next time, don't do that. Okay? That's really the hardest part for people to be able to do when it comes to past trauma, is take accountability. Next step, what does your past self need to hear? And this is a time when you go back into your trauma as a third party. Don't go back into the trauma. View it as a third party. View it as your present self watching your past self. And once it happens, go and sit your past self down and tell your past self everything you needed to hear. Like for my example that I gave you, I would sit my past self down and tell myself, Caroline, you did not deserve this. You are strong and beautiful. You're carrying your first child. You are a strong woman. You're going to make a great mother. You are kind, and you are, okay? That is really important, because the reason this trauma sticks with us is because we failed to hear what we needed to at the time. And by going back and telling ourselves these things, it helps empower us. Say, yeah, you know what? I didn't deserve this, and I am so much stronger now for it. I learned something from this, okay? Which is the next step. What did you learn from this trauma? Well, what I learned from my one of many traumas, was that when someone puts their hands on me, like he was tugging at my dress because I had just come home from work and I wanted to change because I was pregnant and cold. I wanted to put on something comfortable. He kept pulling at my dress. No, don't change. No, don't change. I like your dress. And that's why I went, bam, right? And so I know now, when not to allow myself to bubble up to the point where I lash out. Okay, I know now, let's take a step back, breathe, and express verbally what we don't want that person to do. Okay, and the next step, I've heard it told as gaslighting yourself, which is, you're not. Change the ending of what happened. In my case, it would be, well, I would come home and he would be tugging on my dress to change. And I would step back and say, please stop doing this. I am tired, I am cold, I am pregnant. I would like to be comfortable. We're going out for dinner. Can I please change my clothes? And he would say, oh yeah, you're right, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have been tugging on you. And we go out to dinner and we have a good time. The reason that this is important is because you're telling that trauma, you have no power over me anymore. You do not affect me to this day. In fact, you have so little trauma. You have so little effect on me now. I'm changing the whole story to what works for me. That's how insignificant you are, trauma. Okay? It's an empowerment. It's that growth, right? How do we live in the present? So, first off, we have to forget the past, okay? Which is something that we've gotten the ball rolling with the shadow work. Past, okay? When we do shadow work, we take the lessons from those things that really affected us in the past. We take the lessons, the things we've learned, and we leave the rest in the past. It's garbage. It doesn't matter anymore, okay? It's if you think about it, People who are unhealed are kind of like hoarders. They're mental hoarders. Because if you look at a hoarder's house, they live with the garbage in their house, right? But when you do the shadow work, it's like spring cleaning your house, getting all of that garbage out of your house. And by getting all of that garbage out of your house, you're making room to put new, beautiful, amazing memories. Okay? It's like I said, it's a mental spring cleaning. It's like the Tower card. Clearing out the old to make room for the new, right? And then we forget the future. It hasn't happened yet. Who cares? And I know people say, but I have bills. I have this coming up. I have that coming up. I have goals. I want to go to college. So I should just forget that? No, no, don't forget that. Basically, let's say, like for me, I want to take my kids to Disney World this summer. So am I going to sit here and worry about it? Oh, where am I going to get the money? How am I going to get the money? No, I'm like, what can I do today to positively affect the outcome of that trip? It'll today, nothing. Okay, then don't worry about it. If you can't do anything today to take a step closer to that goal, forget it. It'll work itself out. Okay? And every day, if you need to make a list of future goals, go ahead and every day look at your list. What can I do? Okay, number 1, what can I do today to work towards that? Nothing? Okay, number 2, what can I do today? Nothing? All right. Okay. And same with bills. Rent is coming up and you're like, oh my God, rent's coming up and I don't have enough rent. And then, okay, what can you do today to work, to do something about that? And if you're like, well, it's Sunday, I can't do anything about it. Okay, don't worry about it. Okay? Don't worry about it today. And it's that Hakuna Matata. Don't worry, be happy. And a lot of people say, oh, that's wishful thinking. That's fairyland thinking. No, it's not. It's a type of thinking. If I can't do anything about paying my rent at the end of the month, if I can't do anything about it today, then why am I going to worry about it? I'm worrying for no reason. Okay? There's a saying, worrying is like sitting in a rocking chair. It'll give you something to do, but it won't get you anywhere. 100% now. That's why you have to focus on the now. Focus on today. Just focus on today. Doesn't matter what happened yesterday. Doesn't matter what's going to happen tomorrow. Focus on today. Okay? And this is really going to cause a war with your ego. Your ego doesn't like that. Because if you're like, okay, I'm worried about my rent. Okay? Well, how do you feel right now? Just sit in it. How do you feel right now? And you're just kind of like, I mean, I'm worried about my rent, but for the most part, I'm fine. Okay, then you're fine. And your ego doesn't look like that because your ego's like, what do you mean you're fine? We have rent to pay. And you're fine? What does that mean? That's where you have to tell your ego, go sit down. Go sit in your little timeout chair, and I will call you when I need you. Okay? The ego lives in the past and the future because there are always things to focus on negatively in the past and in the future. In the past, oh, remember when this person did this to us? Remember when that person did that to us? I'm gonna go get some drinks. Okay. And then if it's not that, the future, oh, our rent is coming up. This is coming up. That is coming up. Let's worry. Okay? But you tell your ego, no, we're not going to worry. I just saw 444 on the timer. Anyway, because the ego thrives on negativity and drama. It thrives on it. We have to have drama. We have to have something to be negative about. That's why people are so negative all the time. When you deny your ego the ability to focus on negativity and drama, it weakens. It's like stopping your addiction cold turkey. Okay? And you're going to get all of this. You're going to kind of go into a withdrawal and your ego's, and you're going to be like, ego, shut up, ego, shut up. However, if you have nothing to replace the ego with, it's going to get It's going to eat. It's going to get to you. Okay? Just like when you're in recovery, like I'm in recovery, I'm 3 years sober. So, well, yeah, 3 years sober. I just turned 3 years sober. So for a while, when I was recovering from alcohol, I ate candy like there was no tomorrow. That was my substitute. Now I don't eat like that anymore. So there has to be an alternative, right? Once you quit that, once you cut off your ego, your ego needs structure. Ego, you're there to keep me safe. That's it. Okay? It's important. Oh. Once you do your shadow work and your healing, you remove your ability to let the negativity scare you. And once you do your shadow work and healing, as you move forward, you'll realize that, you know what? Whenever negativity comes up, I know how to deal with it properly now. That negativity doesn't scare me. And we're talking about negative emotions and negative, I mean, if someone is like, if your life is being threatened, ego, help me. Okay? But if your life isn't being threatened, it's like, oh my God, my rent. Ego, just chill out. Okay? It's important to cultivate self-love after your healing because it will help you to develop inner strength, confidence, and empowerment. Okay? I have a book I wrote on how to cultivate self-love. Okay? There's lots of information on Google, on the internet, there are videos how to cultivate self-love. If you guys want me to do a video on that, I can do it. Just let me know. So hold on, needed to go. Oh, your inner strength, confidence, empowerment is needed to combat your ego's attempt to sabotage your efforts to focus on the now. Yeah, your ego will try to sabotage your efforts to focus on the now. And you need to say, you know what, ego? Shut it. Inner strength, confidence, empowerment. Once you put your ego in timeout, you need to replace it with something, right? It could be your higher self, God. I know in China, there's Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism. I apologize if I said that wrong. You know, your inner Buddha, your inner higher self, angels, God, whatever it is, that's who you replace the ego with. The ego now answers to your higher power or your higher self. You're the best version of yourself. That's who the ego answers to now. Okay? Ego is no longer in charge. No. We've spent all of our lives living in our ego, living in fear. So it will take constant practice to let our higher selves rule us instead of our egos. Yes. Okay? This is something that has to be practiced over and over and over. Saying, ego, shut up and go sit down. Okay? You can do this. I did this and you can do this. You deserve to do this. Okay? You are loved, strong, beautiful, and amazing. You can do this. I believe in you. I did it. If you read my life story, it's a wonder I'm even here today to talk to you. Okay, so you can do this. And I believe that you can do this. You just have to believe in yourself. So that was my message today. Thank you guys so much for watching. And I will see you next time.